Hello everyone and welcome to Statistically Speaking. Today I'm gonna talk about arithmetic mean. Now, what is arithmetic mean? Well, when we say average, we often mean arithmetic mean. So arithmetic mean, it's just the normal average that we think of. Like if someone wants to know what is the average income, then they mean what is the arithmetic mean of the income. So to make this simple, we're going to look at two examples for two different formulas. Well, technically they are the same formula, but one is easier in one situation than the other. In this first example, we have the numbers 3, 2, 10, 18 and 8, and those are the numbers we're going to take an average of. So if you would just be asked, take an average of these numbers, what you would probably do, and which is correct also, is to just sum them up and divide by the number of numbers we have, which is 5. And that would give us 8.2, which is our average in this case. So if we want a more general formula, in an earlier video I explained this symbol, the sum, and that is what we're gonna use. Because if we look up here, we have sum of the 5 numbers. So if we would write sum of xi, where I is just the annotation of which number are we looking at, and this I goes from 1 to n, where n is the number of observations or number of numbers we have. So in this case, this would be x1, this would be x2, x3, x4 and x5. And then we want to divide by the number of numbers, and that is our n. Just n. We can also write this as 1 divided by n times the sum of xi, I from 1 to n. That works just as fine as this. It's the same thing. But the mean is often used in other formulas and stuff like that. So to not have to write this each single time, we can give this the notation of x bar. So if you would see x bar, that is that we want the mean, the average. So this formula, or the formula I'm going to show next, they are pretty much the same. You can use them, and in any case, just one might be easier than the other in different scenarios. So here we have another example. And let's say we had a 6-sided dice, and we threw this a number of times, and then we noted down how many ones did we get, how many twos, and so on. And now we want to know what is the arithmetic mean, what is the average of these numbers. So the side of the dice that we got up, like if we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, that is our x in this scenario. So that is our x. And the number of cases we got each, we will call this f. F stands for frequency, meaning how many times did we get something. So what we can do, we can use the other formula where we take just the sum of all the x's divided by the number of observations. So if we would do that, we would have, okay, we have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 7 times, and then plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 and so on 11 times. And well, you see how this becomes very repetitive? We can make this easier for ourselves to simplify this. So instead of writing each single one down, well, we know that there is 7 ones. We can shorten that. to 1 times 7, and then plus 2 times 11, plus, and so on for the rest. And we see that is the same thing, but it's much easier to write. And that is the trick in this formula. Instead of taking the sum of xi, we will take the sum of xi times fi, where I is equal to 1, but not to n this time, because we don't have that many sums anymore. We will only have 6 sums, 1 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and not 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, and so on. So we will just do it up to k, where k is the number of classes. And classes is just, well, 1 is 1 class, 2 is 1 class, 3 is 1 class, and so on. And then we will divide that by n. But now, what is n in this scenario? Well, in this scenario, n will be equal to the sum from I equals 1 to k for fi. So we just sum all the f's together. And if we do sum these, so 7 plus 11 plus 6 and so on, we will get 50 in this scenario. So if we would do this example with this formula, we will get 1 times 7 plus 2 times 11 plus 3 times 6 plus 4 times 5 plus 5 times 10 plus 6 times 11 divided by 50. And what would this give us? Well, this would give us 366. And that would be our average in this case. And like I said before, this formula, it is the same as before, but with a little twist to make it easier when we have very repetitive numbers like this. But it is still x bar. So if you would have x bar in another formula or something, or just calculate x bar, you will just have to look at the example you have in front of you, which formula would be easiest in this scenario. And like I said, you can use either of them anytime you want. It's just sometimes one is easier than the other. It's just as simple as that. So that was some explanation about arithmetic mean and how you calculate it and what it means. And like I said, it's just average. If someone will tell you average, they would probably mean arithmetic mean.